Picture it, 1933. It's a few hours after dark in Storyville, New Orleans, home to the few madams and barmen left after the US Navy cleared them out in 1919. And home to you, because it's a cheap place in the city. But you're New Orleans proud, son of sharecroppers and slaves, and tonight we're going downtown to the Pythian Temple's rooftop garden for a night of sultry and smooth jazz which was created by your brothers and sisters in Black New Orleans. It's on the rooftop garden because you're black, and you're not allowed in the floors below that belong to the hotel by the same name. The black performers on stage aren't allowed to play at white clubs because in 1933, it was illegal. You know what else was illegal? Drinking. Prohibition has just ended, so you're going to get yourself a drink. Not that you have any money to throw away, because it's in the height of the Great Depression, and you, and most of the audience that night at the garden, are unemployed as well. Let's further set the scene. In the kaleidoscope of New Orleans' Storyville district in 1933, the life of a black man unfolded against the backdrop of a complex and segregated society. Despite the city's reputation for its vibrant music scene and cultural dynamism, racial divisions permeated every facet of daily existence, shaping the experiences and opportunities available to black individuals. In Storyville, the infamous red light district that existed from 1897 to 1917, racial segregation extended to every facet of life. While the district was known for its lively nightlife and the birth of jazz, black residents faced discrimination in accessing entertainment venues and were often relegated to performing in establishments catering exclusively to black patrons. This segregation persisted despite the undeniable contributions of black musicians to the very heartbeat of the city's musical identity. Economic opportunities for black individuals in Storyville were constrained by deeply entrenched racial prejudices. Employment options were very limited at the height of the Great Depression, and economic disparities persisted, reflecting the wider racial inequalities prevalent in the United States during this period. Black individuals were often relegated to low-paying jobs with little room for advancement, reinforcing a social hierarchy that impeded economic mobility. Moreover, the specter of Jim Crow laws cast a long shadow over daily life, enforcing racial segregation in public spaces, transportation, and even recreational activities. The pervasive racial discrimination and segregation extended beyond Storyville, shaping the broader social fabric of New Orleans and the South as a whole. While New Orleans and Storyville were crucibles of cultural innovation, the reality for black individuals in 1933 was one marked by the harsh constraints of racial segregation, limited opportunities, and systemic discrimination. Despite these challenges, the resilience of the black community endured, laying the groundwork for later generations to challenge and dismantle the oppressive structures that defined this era. The echoes of this tumultuous period resonate in the ongoing struggle for civil rights and social justice, as we confront the legacies of a past that shaped the experiences of black individuals in Storyville and beyond. The scene is set. Now to one of the biggest contributions New Orleans has gifted the world, its music and the tradition of jazz. Embarking on a musical journey that transcends borders and echoes through the annals of time, jazz stands as a global phenomenon, weaving a tapestry of innovation and influence that has birthed modern music genres across continents. Originating in the vibrant cultural cauldron of early 20th century America, jazz has evolved into a transformative force, leaving an indelible mark on the world's musical landscape. The roots of jazz can be traced to the African diaspora through colonization and slavery, with its genesis in the cultural crucible of New Orleans. A melting pot of African, European, and Caribbean influences, jazz emerged as a spontaneous and improvisational art form, capturing the essence of cultural diversity and musical innovation. The migration of jazz from the streets and speakeasies of New Orleans to the wider world began its transformative journey. African and Caribbean influences have played a foundational role in shaping the vibrant and diverse landscape of jazz, contributing essential elements that have fused with various other influences to create a rich tapestry of sound. Let's explore how these influences have manifested in jazz and how they have intertwined with other musical traditions. African rhythmic traditions, characterized by intricate polyrhythms and syncopated patterns, became a cornerstone of jazz. The emphasis on rhythmic complexity in African music found resonance in jazz drumming, influencing the development of swing, bebop, and other subgenres. The African tradition of communal music making and improvisation laid the groundwork for jazz's hallmark feature, improvisation. Jazz musicians, drawing from the call and response dynamics of African music, embraced the freedom to spontaneously create and respond within the context of a musical conversation. The African diaspora brought spiritual and ritualistic elements into jazz. The use of chants, spirituals, and religious themes in jazz compositions reflects the profound influence of African spirituality on the genre. Rhythms of calypso and soca from the Caribbean have found their way into jazz, adding danceable grooves and uplifting energy. Musicians like Sonny Rollins have incorporated Caribbean influences into their improvisations, creating a fusion that reflects the joyous spirit of Caribbean music. Jazz has engaged in a fruitful dialogue with European classical traditions. Elements of classical harmony and structure, coupled with the improvisational nature of jazz, led to the development of third-stream music, a genre that merges jazz and classical sensibilities. The blues, born from African American experiences, became a fundamental component of jazz. The fusion of African rhythms and melodic elements with the emotional expressiveness of the blues gave rise to various jazz styles, including soul jazz and modal jazz. The fervor and emotive qualities of gospel music have permeated jazz, influencing both vocal and instrumental expressions. Artists like Duke Ellington seamlessly integrated gospel themes into their compositions, infusing jazz with spiritual dimensions. Jazz has embraced influences from the East, incorporating elements from Indian, Middle Eastern, and Asian musical traditions. John Coltrane's exploration of modal improvisation and use of non-Western scales exemplifies this cross-cultural exchange. In essence, jazz stands as a testament to the power of cultural cross-pollination. African and Caribbean influences have not only shaped the rhythmic and melodic foundations of jazz but have also seamlessly merged with a multitude of other influences, creating a dynamic and ever-evolving genre that continues to captivate audiences worldwide. Jazz tells a story of a subjugated but not downtrodden people, the story of exploitation, slavery, discrimination, and the story of peoples everywhere that has suffered the same fate under colonization. Jazz, in essence, is the perfect example exemplifying our cultural heritage. A truly American invention, a great melting pot of gumbo, to be exact. And don't forget the Tabasco and the okra. Originating in the vibrant crucible of quintessentially the most American and not American city, the Queen of the Mississippi, the Crescent City, jazz was born in New Orleans in the early 20th century, embarking on a journey of migration that transcended geographical confines, resonating across the nation and laying the groundwork for transformative musical genres such as big band and swing. This sonic odyssey, marked by the fusion of diverse musical traditions, mirrors the evolution of jazz as it traversed from its southern roots to the urban landscapes of Chicago, Pittsburgh, and New York, catalyzing a national phenomenon. The early roots of jazz in New Orleans were deeply embedded in the rich tapestry of African and European musical traditions. As this unique art form emerged, it found resonance beyond its birthplace, with musicians migrating and carrying the sounds of jazz to new locales. Chicago, with its burgeoning urban landscape and thriving entertainment scene, became a key hub for this musical migration. In the era of Jim Crow in the American South, African Americans faced systemic racism and discriminatory laws that limited their opportunities and quality of life. Faced with these challenges, a significant migration unfolded as black individuals sought refuge and greater prospects in the North. This mass movement, known as the Great Migration, took place primarily between 1916 and 1970. Driven by the hope for improved economic prospects and escape from the oppressive racial climate of the South, black families ventured to northern cities in search of a better life. Cities such as Chicago, Detroit, New York, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia became beacons of promise, offering industrial jobs and the prospect of a less discriminatory environment. This trend continued through the 1920s, gained momentum during the economic hardships of the Great Depression, and surged once again during and after World War II. The migration marked a seismic demographic shift, reshaping the racial composition and cultural dynamics of northern cities. As African Americans migrated, they brought with them the cultural treasures of the South, including the vibrant musical traditions that would come to define American music. New Orleans, in particular, played a pivotal role in this musical migration. The city's rich musical heritage, steeped in jazz and influenced by diverse cultural currents, became a wellspring of creativity that resonated nationally. Jazz, with its roots firmly planted in the streets of New Orleans, became a sonic ambassador carried by black migrants to the north. The migration of jazz mirrored the broader movement of people, as musicians from New Orleans took their artistry to cities like Chicago and New York. The music, characterized by its improvisational spirit and dynamic rhythms, found resonance in the bustling urban landscapes of the North. In Chicago, jazz found fertile ground amid the cultural ferment of the Roaring Twenties. The city's speakeasies and dance halls pulsed with the infectious rhythms of jazz, attracting both black and white audiences. The Great Migration, which saw a mass movement of African Americans from the rural South to urban centers, further fueled the spread of jazz. And the music played at the underground bars during the Prohibition. The music became a symbol of liberation and cultural expression, transcending racial boundaries and capturing the imagination of a nation in the throes of social change. Pittsburgh, another vital node in jazz's migration, played a significant role in shaping the genre's trajectory. The city's vibrant music scene, fueled by the convergence of diverse cultural influences, provided a fertile ground for experimentation and innovation, especially in the city's hot, free, and multicultural Hill District, a spot on the Underground Railroad since 1861, home to people living, growing, learning, and thinking different lives from different nations and different skin colors, an open respite and haven in the middle of an otherwise segregated Pittsburgh. As one group came, another might leave, but the blending and its creation left a unique cultural identity and impact on jazz, and the greats, Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington, were regulars there. This city's great treasure was torn asunder, raised in half for an urban renewal plan that teared down homes, forced families to relocate, and separated the Hill from other local neighborhoods, all for the construction of a civic arena stadium built between 1958 and 1961, which itself was razed in 2012. A perfect example of bad, racist, urban planning. Now gentrification is wiping the old Hill off the map, metaphorically speaking. The Hill, once jazz's mainstay in Pittsburgh's cultural milieu, helped lay the groundwork for the genre's national popularity. New York, the epicenter of cultural dynamism, became a crucible where jazz reached new heights and underwent further transformation. New York, particularly Harlem, played a central role in the dissemination of jazz during the Harlem Renaissance. The Cotton Club, a legendary venue, showcased the talents of black musicians and introduced jazz to diverse audiences, including white patrons eager for a taste of this electrifying new sound. The Harlem Renaissance, a cultural and artistic explosion in the 1920s, saw jazz becoming synonymous with the spirit of the times. Harlem's Cotton Club became an iconic venue, showcasing the talents of jazz luminaries and solidifying the genre's place in the national spotlight. The story of the downfall of Harlem is the story of American segregation and discrimination in America to this day. As jazz migrated and flourished in these urban centers, it underwent stylistic evolution, giving rise to big band and swing. The larger ensembles of big bands, characterized by brass and rhythm sections, expanded the sonic possibilities of jazz. Swing, with its infectious rhythms and danceable beats, became a cultural phenomenon, captivating audiences nationwide and propelling jazz into mainstream popularity. The end of World War II marked a pivotal moment in jazz history. The war had exposed diverse audiences, including servicemen stationed abroad, to the sounds of big band and swing. Returning veterans brought with them a newfound appreciation for this distinctly American art form, solidifying jazz's place as a national treasure. The migration of jazz from its New Orleans origins to the urban landscapes of Chicago, Pittsburgh, and New York represents a remarkable musical odyssey. This journey, fueled by cultural exchange and social dynamics, propelled jazz to national prominence and laid the foundation for the dynamic evolution of big band and swing. The echoes of this transformative migration continue to reverberate in the diverse soundscape of American music, attesting to the enduring legacy of jazz as a cultural force that transcends boundaries and resonates across generations. The influence of black migrants from the South, coupled with the creative energy of northern cities, propelled jazz to new heights. The genre transcended its regional origins, becoming a national and international phenomenon. The cultural exchange facilitated by the Great Migration not only transformed the musical landscape but also laid the groundwork for the broader civil rights movement, as African Americans continued to navigate and challenge systemic racism in their quest for equality and justice. In essence, the migration of African Americans from the Jim Crow South to the North marked a transformative chapter in American history. Beyond reshaping demographics and economic landscapes, This movement catalyzed a cultural renaissance that brought the infectious rhythms of jazz from the streets of New Orleans to the stages of northern cities, leaving an indelible imprint on the tapestry of American music and society. The early 20th century witnessed jazz's infectious rhythms and expressive freedom spreading beyond American shores. As musicians from diverse backgrounds embraced jazz, the genre began to mutate, absorbing the flavors of different cultures. In Europe, jazz became a symbol of rebellion and liberation, while in Latin America, it fused with indigenous rhythms, giving birth to distinctive subgenres like Afro-Cuban jazz. In the turbulent years following World War I, the echoes of jazz, a distinctly American art form, found their way across the Atlantic to Germany, leaving an indelible mark on the nation's cultural landscape. The historical trajectory of jazz in Germany is a fascinating journey, shaped by socio-political dynamics, artistic exchange, and a complex interplay of influences. The initial encounter with jazz in Germany during the 1920s was marked by a fervor for all things American. The vibrant and innovative spirit of jazz resonated with the post-war generation, disillusioned by the constraints of tradition and hungry for the dynamism of a new cultural expression. American jazz records flooded the German market, finding enthusiastic audiences in urban centers like Berlin. Berlin, in particular, emerged as a hotbed for jazz experimentation. The city's vibrant nightlife and avant-garde atmosphere provided a fertile ground for jazz musicians and enthusiasts, and provided the backdrop of Netflix's popular series, Babylon Berlin, when is Season 4 releasing to America. Jazz clubs proliferated, and German musicians began to embrace this new musical language, infusing it with their own artistic sensibilities. However, the Weimar Republic's embrace of jazz was not universally celebrated. The conservative elements of German society viewed jazz as a symbol of cultural decadence and moral decay. The racial origins of jazz, with its roots in African American culture, also became a point of contention, reflecting the broader racial prejudices of the time. The ascent of the Nazi regime in the 1930s marked a significant turning point for jazz in Germany. The Nazis, viewing jazz as a degenerate and racially impure art form, launched campaigns against the genre. Jazz was banned, and musicians faced persecution, censorship, and suppression. The vibrant jazz scene that had thrived in the 1920s was stifled, and the sounds of swing, once the heartbeat of German urban life, was silenced. The end of World War II and the subsequent Allied occupation brought a shift in the perception of jazz in Germany. As the country sought to rebuild and redefine itself, jazz once again found a foothold. American jazz, seen as a symbol of democracy and freedom, gained popularity among German audiences. Jazz became a means of cultural exchange, fostering connections between occupied Germany and the liberating forces. In the post-war era, West Germany became a thriving center for jazz appreciation and innovation. American jazz musicians, often black artists who had faced racial discrimination in their home country, found enthusiastic audiences in Germany. Jazz festivals, clubs, and educational programs flourished, contributing to a renewed love for the genre. In East Germany, under Soviet influence, jazz faced a more complex reality. While the state initially frowned upon jazz as a Western imperialist import, it gradually became more tolerant. Jazz musicians in East Germany navigated a delicate balance, incorporating socialist themes into their work while maintaining the improvisational spirit of jazz. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the reunification of Germany opened new possibilities for jazz. The genre continued to evolve, embracing fusion, electronic, and experimental forms. Jazz festivals, academic programs, and a vibrant club scene contributed to Germany's ongoing love affair with this ever-adapting musical genre. The history of jazz in Germany is a narrative of adaptation, resilience, and cultural exchange. From its initial embrace in the 1920s to the suppression under Nazi rule and the subsequent revival in the post-war era, jazz has woven itself into the fabric of German cultural identity. The trajectory of jazz in Germany reflects not only the transformative power of music but also the complex interplay between artistic expression, political ideologies, and societal attitudes over the course of the 20th century. Returning to its ancestral roots, jazz found a profound resonance in Africa. The genre's syncopated rhythms and improvisational spirit blended seamlessly with traditional African musical elements, creating a rich tapestry of styles. South African jazz, exemplified by legends like Hugh Masekela and Miriam Makeba, became a powerful vehicle for expressing resistance during the apartheid era. Throughout its history, Jazz has been a catalyst for social change and a vehicle for expressing the aspirations and struggles of marginalized communities. From the civil rights movement in the United States to anti-apartheid struggles in South Africa, jazz musicians used their art to advocate for justice and equality, giving voice to the voiceless and inspiring movements for societal transformation. The far-reaching impact of jazz on modern music genres is unmistakable. Elements of jazz can be discerned in the DNA of genres as diverse as rock, hip-hop, electronic music, and beyond. The improvisational ethos of jazz has influenced the virtuosic guitar solos of rock legends, while the rhythmic innovations of jazz find echoes in the beats of contemporary hip-hop. Jazz's influence extends beyond traditional instruments, permeating electronic music genres where artists experiment with the fusion of jazz harmonies and electronic textures. The genre's legacy lives on in the DNA of modern music, shaping the sonic landscapes of genres as varied as funk, soul, R&B, and even pop. Jazz's history is a testament to the universal language of music, transcending geographical boundaries and cultural differences. From its humble beginnings in the streets of New Orleans, jazz has evolved into a global force that continues to inspire and shape modern music. Its significance lies not only in its musical innovations but also in its role as a cultural bridge, connecting people and fostering understanding across diverse communities. As we traverse the expansive terrain of jazz's global odyssey, we recognize its enduring legacy as a source of inspiration and a driving force behind the evolution of music worldwide. Thank you for watching. My channel, The Renaissance Spirit, is dedicated to the pursuits of a just, equitable, and humanitarian world. Video topics encompass areas including the history, politics, religion, personal development, society, culture, social and environmental justice, and other topics of liberal arts and sciences including ancient Rome and the Roman Empire, which is a great comparison and contrast of the modern world. Topics perfect for the true modern polymath. The Renaissance ushered in a golden age in the pursuit of knowledge both lost to time and yet to be discovered. It gave birth to the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason. Embracing truth, knowledge, and an understanding and compassion for humanity opens up the world to each of us individually and improves all of humanity, affording us the opportunity to be better stewards of the earth and to each other. The Renaissance spirit. More than just a philosophy or style, but a style for living, learning, growing and thinking. Please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. If you're looking to explore and experience what life has to offer, I'm sure you'll enjoy the other videos on my channel. Please peruse my video library, and let me know in the comments what you get out of them and what other videos you'd like to see. But first, please take the quiz next to see if you're a Renaissance spirit. Live the Renaissance spirit.